Know you're here. We always appreciate when you do that. We have a couple stories here that we see that you're interested in on our digital sites that you're clicking on today. We're going to get to the weather forecast for Labor Day weekend, the all-important long weekend coming up here in a second, along with what's happening with Dorian now, a Cat 3 hurricane that's bearing down on Florida. We'll talk about that with our Chief Meteorologist David Paul in a couple of minutes here, so stick around for that. A couple of the big stories, though, that you're clicking on today. First one is David Temple. This happened just a little while ago. He is the local football coach who was convicted a second time of killing his wife back in 1999. He will be allowed out of jail while he awaits a new sentencing phase in his trial. That is, if he can come up with some money. The judge this morning setting his bond at $1 million, which means he will have to come up with 10% of that, or $100,000 in cash or collateral, to be able to get out while he awaits sentencing again, which is going to happen in March of next year. So that's quite a long wait. You may remember just recently he was convicted a second time for killing his wife back in 1999. He'd already served 7 years for that crime. He served 9 years, 9 years for the crime. But he was given a second trial when it was determined the prosecutor withheld some evidence that would have helped the defense. So the jury convicted him again, but then that same jury could not agree on a sentence, a punishment for David Temple, and therefore it was a mistrial, not the conviction, but the sentencing. So that part will have to be redone in the spring of next year, and he can get out of jail in the meantime if he can come up with some money. We have a long write-up here on our website about that, the arguments made by prosecutors and defense that ended up getting him that $1 million bond. You can check that out if you like. And before we get to the forecast here, talk about what the weather is going to be like, we have to show you a little bit of what's happening down at the beach today in Galveston. It's rare, so we got to show it to you. Look at that. That is crystal clear blue-green water in Galveston for Labor Day weekend. How do you like that? We don't get it very often, right? And it's pretty unpredictable. It just shows up when the currents change and that muddy, silty water moves out a little bit and the water clears up for some great beach weather. And doesn't that look great? So we have Jason Miles down at the beach in Galveston today. He'll be coming up on our later newscast talking about what's happening down there, what you can expect, how to stay safe down there as well. But it looks picture perfect. Let's go over to David Paul now and talk about the weather. Almost feel guilty a little bit, David, right? Given what they're looking at in Florida this Labor Day weekend and what we're getting here in Texas. It's not always perfect at the beach this time of year in Galveston, but boy, it looks like it is right now.
Well, Russ, this Labor Day weekend in Galveston is going to be just spectacularly beautiful. The water, as you mentioned and showed, is cleared up. It's going to be one of those rare beach weekends where the water is relatively calm, very light waves, beautiful for going to the beach, enjoying the water. Galveston at its best for Labor Day weekend 2019. I almost feel a little guilty because the beaches in Florida, many of them will be deserted because what is now Category 3 Hurricane Dorian is going to hit there as we head into, it looks like Monday night. On Labor Day in Florida, and they will not be having nearly the beach weekend that we will be having. In fact, they're going to have a bit of a disaster in some spots where this storm makes landfall. It's forecast to make landfall as a Cat 4. So here are the latest stats if you're tracking at home. 24.8 north, 70.3 west. Maximum sustained winds now 115 miles an hour, Category 3. Get above 110, it becomes a Cat 3. It's moving northwest at 10, pressure's down to 970 millibars. The lower that number goes, the stronger, the more intense the low pressure becomes, and when that intensity wraps up, that's when the winds circulate stronger. The lower the pressure, the stronger the winds in these tropical systems. Let's just set your bearings a little bit. Here's the tropical Atlantic, Gulf of Mexico, there's Texas, there we are in Houston right there, Caribbean Sea, and there's Dorian. It's the only real big player right now in the tropics. Now, a tropical wave did just come off the west coast of Africa yesterday, and it looks like it's got a 30% chance for developing as it slowly moves west across the open Atlantic. But this is 4,000 miles away, depending on where you are in the United States. So lots of time to watch that. The computers are not overly aggressive with its development. Dorian, on the other hand, has developed. And it's interesting, the Hurricane Center really got this correct. Last night, they thought that at 1 o'clock today, Dorian would become Cat 3. And it has done exactly that. And you can see a huge change if you've been following along with us and the way it looks on our infrared enhanced satellite. There's the eye. The eye has opened up. The storm is saying hello, hello to the world. Usually when they get strong Cat 2, get into Cat 3, that's when the eye becomes visible, and there it is. So right inside the eye, in that little spot of clear, it's absolutely dead calm. Sun's out, it's beautiful right inside the eye. But you get in the eye wall, the band of storms right around that eye, and that's where the maximum sustained winds exist. That's where the winds are at 115 miles an hour and are expected to reach 140 miles an hour as it approaches the Bahamas and approaches Florida. So here we are right now, Cat 3, and you can see there's the actual center right there. That spot there was at 1 o'clock, so it's just a little bit old. The storm is moving northwest, but there's the eye of the storm as it's opened up. Just spectacular to see it on satellite. And then here we go, becomes Cat 4 by Saturday night into Sunday morning, winds of 130 miles an hour. So the Bahamas, the northern islands in the Bahamas are going to take a hard hit from a Category 4 Dorian. That's going to happen Saturday, Sunday. And then here we go into, this is where we expect it to be somewhere on that line Monday morning, Labor Day morning, with winds of 140 miles an hour. And it's forecast to just move on to the west. And we're beginning to sharpen the pencil now and narrowing in on a better landfall zone. And it looks like it's going to be this south central part of the Florida coast that is most likely to take a direct hit from the eye wall of Dorian. Palm Beach at the moment looks like the best reference point to where that center is going to go, and that will probably be Monday night. So here we are Monday morning. So this is going to be Monday night into early Tuesday morning, Cat 4 landfall of Dorian. And then watch this. Do you have plans to go to Orlando? You might want to think twice, because it's forecast to turn to the north, and then there's Orlando, and still forecast to be a Cat 3 as it approaches central Florida, Orlando, Cat 3 hurricane. So this is going to impact a huge amount of the state. You know, instead of just racing across the state, it's going to turn right up the gut, and that's going to impact a gigantic amount of terrain. Fort Pierce, Vero Beach, Melbourne. Here's Cape Canaveral. That's where they launch all the rockets. There's Daytona Beach, Orlando, and then it continues northward, becoming Cat 1 as it passes past Orlando. It should weaken pretty quickly after that. But even Jacksonville, you know, if that passes up, moves to the north, moves to the west of Jacksonville, they're on the dirty side of a Cat 1. And it's slowing down, and so they may have a significant flooding concern. So you can see there's our track moving off to the west and taking a sharp turn to the north, right up the Florida peninsula. I mean, it's close to a worst case scenario for them. Oh, by the way, real quickly, so they've got a history of Labor Day hurricanes in Florida. You may have heard about the famous Labor Day hurricane. It's famous because they didn't know it was coming. It was 1935. They had a Cat 5 come through the Florida Keys in 1935 on Labor Day. That one had maximum sustained winds, or they measured winds above 180 miles an hour. So as bad as this is, it can be and has been worse. Spaghetti plots. So a lot of folks have been asking about whether or not this has a chance to come across the Gulf. No, that does not look like it's going to be the scenario at all. It will find a weakness and move north and then up the east coast. So look at the amount of coast that this thing is going to traverse. So there's going to be just a tremendous amount. So even the weatherman in Charleston, South Carolina right now is talking about possibly a Cat 1 hurricane as they head into the early part of next week, as the track is going to curve right up the coast. You know, quite often these things turn before they reach the east coast, but not this time, because we've got this sprawling area of high pressure here just acting to block it. That's what's keeping it from turning to the north. That's what's pushing it all the way to the west coast, where it's going to impact people instead of just impacting the fish and the shipping lanes out over the open Atlantic. So category. So what is a Category 4? So maximum sustained winds of 130 to 156. And what does that look like? What does wind damage like that look like? This is Cat 4 wind damage from Rockport. This is Harvey in 2017. They took a direct hit from the eye. A lot of roof damage, roofs and walls sometimes torn down. You can see all the debris from the damage there. That's just the wind damage. So when you add, if you're right on the coast and you get a surge, it can be 10, 15, 20 feet with a Cat 4 depending on what the coastline looks like. This is what a Cat 4 surge can do. This is Ike. This is the Bolivar Peninsula near Gilcrest in 2008 from Hurricane Ike. Now you might be saying, wait a minute, Ike was a Cat 2. It was, but it had a Cat 4 surge. That was the water that was pushed up across the Bolivar Peninsula and just wiped out all these homes. This is why we have to take these things so seriously on the coast, because clearly it's a threat to human life. Okay, so this is why we're feeling a little guilty here this Labor Day weekend. It is as beautiful as it ever gets in Galveston on a summer day right now. The water has cleared up all the way to the coast. Look at all the folks out here in the water. It's beautiful, clear water all the way to the coast. That doesn't often happen, but we've got it. It's blue sky, it's gorgeous, and it's going to be like that for the entire weekend. So anywhere you go, hot, humid, but beautiful. Currently Bush at 94, Hobby's 92, Galveston is 91 right now. Good old summer with no storms on the horizon, which is so nice not to have to deal with that. We've had our share of those storms and we'll have more. That's why we all stay prepared at all times. Galveston feels like 102. Let's see. Where's the hot spot? It's bad as it gets. Sugarland, okay, 103 in Sugarland's what it feels like right now. It's hot, but it's below heat advisory criteria. What about rain? We're getting a few scattered showers. These guys coming into Chambers in Liberty County, coming down I-10. There's some lightning and thunder with that. This little one coming right up the Gulf Freeway looks like it had a little bit of lightning and thunder with it. Here's what the storms are right now. So a couple of flashes, a couple of lightning strikes here near Anahuac and Liberty. This storm just outside the 610 loop south of Pasadena, that might put out a flash of lightning. But again, these are just your garden variety heat of the afternoon, summertime scattered showers that we know and love. So here's how this plays out. Going into 5 o'clock, a couple of isolated showers, maybe a thunderstorm. It all fizzles out going into 8 and 9 o'clock. What are your plans tonight? I hope you're beginning a long, restful, enjoyable family weekend because the weather is going to cooperate. We will see a scattered thunderstorm chance each day of the holiday weekend. Here's 6 a.m. Saturday morning, isolated storms near the coast, and they will begin to drift inland by noon. There'll be a scattering, just like what we've got right now, a few scattered showers, hit and miss. Where it comes down, it could briefly be heavy, but this is Saturday 4 in the afternoon. I think we're looking really good here, just typical summertime stuff, and then most of it again fizzles out going into Saturday evening. So here is our 7-day outlook. Saturday, 20% chance for a scattered shower. We're lower rain chances to less than 20% on Sunday. Here's the holiday Monday, 20% chance for a scattered shower, partly cloudy. 30% chance on Tuesday, and then down to a 10% chance going into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So the unofficial end to summer, Labor Day weekend, is going to feel like the best summer has to offer for Houston and Galveston. All right, coming up on the 411 at 4 o'clock on the television side, we'll have all the latest updates, show preparations, what's going on in Florida. We'll talk more about our weekend forecast. We got the headlines, some fun stuff. Guarantee you we're going to have our cocktail hour forecast for you as well. So we'll see you on the TV side at 4 o'clock.